Hi, I'm Joe McDonald, and this is Big Mac's Battle Blog. So, not too much of an update, really. I'm just going to talk about support to Ukraine. First of all, I want to say a thank you to every single person who's donated to me or anyone else in Ukraine, or to any charities that support Ukraine. And a thank you to all the countries that have given military support. However, there's help, and then there's getting someone as a present, and then there's getting rid of your tat. Okay. So here are some examples. When I first came to Ukraine, which was right at the start, March 10th, 22. This first stuff was ebbing in. It took a couple of months, and eventually we started to see things like M4s. Now, I'm not certain of this because I'm not a gun nut, but to the best of my knowledge, the M4s we got had been taken out of US Army infantry, and then that had the fire selector adapted, so they were just semi-autos and put on the civilian market, but they hadn't sold well. So then they were readapted. I guess they welded whatever bit they'd filed away back on, and they sent them to us, right? So there's an example. Another example is that we got some MG42s, not MG3s, MG42s, the ones that the Nazis used, that were actually made in either Yugoslavia or Italy. These machine guns are not only older than me, they're older than my father, right? They're older than just about everyone's father. They were 60-year-old machine guns, and they had big numbers painted on the top, which meant they'd come from basically the training base, where you go to do your basic training. So every bloody recruit in that army had handled them. We had night vision goggles, right, from America. But all the lenses were scratched, and the rubber seals on the battery compartment were missing off some, which is why I ended up telling that story about thinking a deer was a Spetsnaz team, because my night vision goggles were on the blink. There's been a lot of stuff like that. People say to me, what's the best tank in Ukraine? Well, the best tank in Ukraine is the one that you've got a lot of, and will take out an enemy tank or enemy armoured car or house, and that because you've got a lot of, you can use effectively. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's a Challenger or a Leopard or an Abrams. All of them, if they run over a TM62 anti-tank mine, are fucked, right? Every last one, If they get hit by a faggot or a bassoon, or a round from an enemy T-72 or T-64, they're going to have serious problems. If not outright destroyed, then, probably needing to go back to retreat if they can, or be recovered, If a Bradley gets shot by a BMP with a 20mm or 30mm cannon, it's fucked. Just the same as if a Bradley shoots a BMP, okay? So none of this stuff is like a wonder weapon. None of it is a game changer. You know what the best tank actually is in Ukraine? That around 500 something T-72s, T-80s, etc., that Poland and the other ex-Iron Curtain nations gave to Ukraine. That's the best tank in Ukraine, because they've got, divisions of them. Another thing is civilian help, volunteer stuff. There's some amazing volunteers in Ukraine who are out here doing incredibly valuable work. And there's some amazing charities as well, like Blaugebillen from Sweden, who's the main person here at the moment. I hear she won't be working for much longer. I don't know why. It seems like a stupid decision to me, because she is that charity and she knows the guys here and knows what they need. But Blaugebillen, they've put a lot of cars into Ukrainian units, and we need vehicles. Ukrainian roads are rough, and they keep getting blown up by shrapnel. So the shelf life of a Toyota Land Cruiser here is dramatically less than if you were using it on a farm in Wales or America or France or wherever. There's other charities like Eyes on Ukraine who make direct connections with soldiers out here and get them stuff that they need. There's a lot of drones, and they really help the civilian volunteers who are doing demining, like Harley from UAEOD. He's got a YouTube channel. You should check it out. Amazing guy. And they're a great charity, and they provide valuable support. But some of the stuff, I've heard, there's this guy from Bristol, drinks in a pub where I used to drink, and he's collecting money so he can bring clothes to Ukraine. Right, Ukraine does not need charity shop clothes. No, it does not. There were moments at the start, right, when there was massive evacuations and people were having to leave behind all the stuff. We're someone turning up with a Salvation Army quality warm jacket was useful. But this isn't Africa. It's a poor country, but it's not Africa. A while ago, when I was with a different part of my battalion, when I was with the reconnaissance dudes, we had these guys from Italy who were bringing multiple vans full of stuff all the way from Italy. Now, I'm not sure how much of it was requested and how much people just turned up at the headquarters in Italy and went, hey, do you want this? Do you want to take this to Ukraine? But they brought what must have been a metric ton of pickled cucumbers to Ukraine that had been driven all the way from Italy in an unrefrigerated van in the hot summer. So they become fermented pickled cucumbers. I mean, you could just about eat them if you like farting every 10 minutes for the next sort of 36 hours. But do you know what the cheapest vegetable is in Ukraine? Cucumbers, gherkins. Yeah, you can buy a whole sort of 5 kilogram crate of them for £1.50, £1.50, €1.50. So Ukraine doesn't need pickled cucumbers, right? It also, there's people who are sending bags of flour. Right now, it's great that you support Ukraine and you want to help people, whether it's the military or whether it's the civilians. But do you know what Ukraine's biggest export is? It's wheat, grain, flour. Yeah. So, we've got a phrase in England called bringing coals to Newcastle. And that's because Newcastle used to produce a massive amount of coal. So, trying to import, ship coals to Newcastle to sell was pointless. So, you catch my drift. There's other things as well. Everyone's going on about the F-16s. Now, so far, in the entire time I've been in Ukraine, which is 16 months now, and probably a year of that has actually been spent on the front. I have not. I saw a fighter plane on a training base near the start, and then I saw one when we were along the river in Kharkiv, one of ours. So that was 2 Ukrainian fighter planes, and there's a story I tell about that on Lindy Beige interviews. Quite a sad story, really. So I won't get distracted with it. And then I saw a couple of our jets on the Kharkiv counteroffensive. Also saw quite a few Russian ones then. But, you know, whether it's Russian or Ukrainian, right, you see, you know, if you're British, you'll see more fighter planes if you go hiking around Snowdon for a week than you will if you spend a year at war in Ukraine. Now, why is that? Well, it's because both sides have got, generally speaking, really good air defence, like Soviet-designed air defence, S-300s, S-400s, the smaller systems, like I think one's called Tor, that they have on the armoured cars. They're good, right? They're good. So even if all these F-16s turn up, if they don't have some kind of technology, which I know exists, but, you know, there's been no mention of them getting this tech package that can basically convince Russian radar and air defence that it is not an F-16, but it's in fact one of their planes, or a drone, or a missile, or not there at all. If they don't come with that, what was the point? They're just going to get blown out the sky by S-300s and S-400s, and, you know, it's... we've got this far, you know, without an air force. So, you know, I mean, be great when they do turn up, because with any luck, if they do have the right technology on, we'll just be able to go and, like, you know, blow up a lot of stuff that's basically out of anything but HIMAR or ATACMS reach at the moment. You know, so, yeah. But, again, has the West been... You know, are they actually committing to giving them F-16s with all the bells and whistles? You know, it's like, or are they basically, you know, giving someone the equivalent of a 1995 Ford Cortina? Yeah. So these are just some thoughts I've had. Like, you know, I don't want to sound. I am grumbling. It's what soldiers do. Because everything's always shit and you've never got enough of what you need. But what I'd like, you know, to sort of get across is, especially to the Americans, you know, maybe some of you are watching this and you believe, like, oh, you know, why are we giving all this money to America? Well, just about every bit of military equipment that America's given to Ukraine was already bought and paid for by the DoD for the US Army. And then it's effectively been resold to Ukraine. I mean, I know there's Lend-Lease, right? But I can't imagine they'll be, like, actually taking back, you know, stuff that's been in combat. And, of course, all of it has. And just like on Lord of War, you know, I mean, it costs a lot of money to ship weapons around the world. So, you know, quite often America just, or at least they used to, just left their weapons after they were done in a place. So, yeah, you know, the whole Lend-Lease thing is not good. And a lot of the money that America gives is like revolving door money. If they give, say, like, hypothetically, let's say 20 billion, right? About 25% goes directly back to the US for satellite costs and stuff like that. You know, intelligence, you know. And yeah, whether they're actually giving them good satellite data and intelligence or not, I don't know, you know. But it certainly doesn't seem like it sometimes. Yeah. Essentially, what I'm saying is, I think a lot of countries are doing you know, as much as they would probably not like Russia to win, so Europe doesn't have Putin hard up against its borders again. You know, and a massive shift in the global power balance, you know. And Russia controlling all of Ukraine's food, and it's one of the world's major food producers, and its gas and its ports, you know. I don't think Europe or America really want that, but I also think, you know, at least in the case of America, that they're quite keen on making this as profitable as possible. And I'm not, no offence to you Americans, you know, most of my viewers are British, but nearly all of my donations come from Americans. And I want to really thank you for that. You know, you've helped me buy drones for my unit. You've helped me buy all the extra bits I need to keep a car on the road. You helped me get some new armour. Can we have a look at that for a second? I got myself an Osprey, a British armour system with all the Kevlar and some MP aerospace plates. After I nearly died when a mortar landed very near me when I was at the bank the other day, because it's a lot warmer than these fancy plate carriers, you know. So yeah, you know, it's helped me do things like that. And we've got, you know, more drones coming and etc. etc. But I guess what I'm saying is, you know, with this thing with Israel happening, and I'm not going to get into the politics of that at all. It seems a pretty atrocious situation all round, as far as I'm concerned. There's all this talk in the papers of support drying up for Ukraine. Well, on scale of conflict, that's like, you know, basically 5 rugby teams fighting 5 football teams up here, and down there's one toddler fighting another toddler. That's the difference in scale of conflict. So on a international level, you know, I couldn't really see why it would affect the support and funding for Ukraine. But you know, lost my thread for a sec there. One thing that me and Brandon and Harley and other people who run channels and other units that get support have noticed recently is that, you know, like a month back I was pulling in about €2,000 thereabouts a month, which was really useful, you know, and it's paid for a couple of drones and other stuff, you know, and now this so far since about the last 3rd of October, I've had about €600 come in, and so things are really drying up for me and for everyone. And I understand people have got other things going on in their life, and, you know, life costs money and Christmas is coming up and stuff. But I just want to, you know, try and help you understand how desperately we need those extra bits. Like, you know, the temperature's just dropped here. And I was at work today in this concrete building, one of the concrete buildings we work from. And, you know what it's like when you go to the garage or something in the winter, and and after like sort of whatever amount of time you're in there, you notice that even with, you know, your thick socks on and your insoles and your shoes on, that your feet are absolutely frozen. Well, I felt like that after about 15 minutes in work today, and it hasn't even hit freezing here yet, so a couple of degrees above. And, you know, we've got a couple of months of up to -30 for weeks or months at a time coming up, you know, very soon. And, you know, things are going to get hard. And I'm lucky in many ways, you know. I'm a drone operator, and I work from buildings, and because we work shifts and because we're stationed in a city that's smack bang on the front line, we get to go home every day. I work 8, 10, 12 hours on average, and I come home and can have a shower, cook myself a bit of food that I pay for, and you know, go sleep in a bed every night. But for those lads out in the trenches in Robertine, Advika, Bakhmut, Kupiansk, and all the way up and down the line. This is the kind of grimness that you can only think of in Second World War terms. It doesn't really matter. When it gets really cold and wet, it doesn't matter whether you're wearing a 1940s uniform or a 2023 uniform. It's still fucking cold and wet. Frostbite is still a thing. However expensive and modern and Gore-Texy your boots are, So yeah, things are tough. And I when I first came here, I can honestly say I did not know that much about Ukraine. I'd watched some things on Vice about the Maidan revolution and, how they were pushing back against Soviet control, which I thought was totally reasonable. But, like many other countries and most people, I didn't have a vast amount of knowledge about it, But what I understood was that if Putin won here, this was going to affect Europe and Britain and the free world at large in a really bad way. And it was super important to stop him. And that is still the truth. If we don't win, then you lot sat at home and your sons and your brothers and your husbands will be doing what I'm doing right now soon enough. So keep that in mind, Whatever I say doesn't change that reality, So yeah, whether you want to support me or the charities that go directly to the Ukrainian government or Eyes on Ukraine or Blau Gebillen or anything like that, right? Whether you want to support these charities or me or Brandon Mitchell, Ukraine TIBC, who helps a vast amount of units and has a really, really good network in Ukraine, knows a lot of people and, puts things in the hands of clever, motivated people, who he's met and he's become aware of, that will save lives and help end this thing quicker. Because Ukraine's not giving up, whatever happens, would you? Because if Ukraine went to peace talks and said, yeah, all right, yeah, okay, we can't keep this up, you can have the Donbass and, keep Crimea. What's to stop them doing this again in a year or two's time or 6 months' time once they've built up the forces, or next summer? What's to stop them pushing again? With new false claims of, Russophobia they need to go and defeat, hating the Russians if you've had the Russians living next to you is totally understandable, at least the Russian regime, So, yeah, basically, the sooner we win this, the sooner we have enough tools to finish the job, the sooner the job is over. So, those are my thoughts on governmental, NGO and private support for the Ukrainian war effort. So, yeah, a lot of it, we wouldn't have been able to do what we've done without the quality weapons that the West has sent. And, there was a time where I thought Germany were being like really miserly and really sitting on the fence, and they have stepped up to the plate. I do not like the Tories, were the Conservative government in Britain, but when everyone else was umming and ahhing about whether they should give Ukraine long-range weapons, Britain stepped up and went, have 100 Storm Shadows, and we've spun up BAE Systems to build more for them. Don't worry, they're not going to cost you a thing, So, hate to say it, but well done, Boris. Well done, Richie. You're not all bad, Complete bastards, and you scammed the country out of 46 billion on test and trace, but still, you're not all bad. So, yeah. And you know, lots of other countries, like, you know, little Czech gave a lot of stuff to Ukraine. Romania's helped a lot. Lithuania, you know, Finland, Sweden have all helped a lot. But you know, we could. It's not easy. Look at the deep state map. Look at just how many brigades they've got surrounding Robotyne, Advika, up in Kublansk. Look how many brigades are across from us down in Kherson. Okay, look how long the front is. All this stuff about the Ukrainian counteroffensive going well, it doesn't matter what army you are, right? Down at a ground troop level, you know, obviously, if you've got enough cruise missiles and enough air force and long range weapons, like, you know, the top end of the HIMARS that go like 300 kilometers or something, and you can just, you know, analyze using satellite and aerial reconnaissance where all their stuff is and blow it up with, you know, with long range, high power missiles and air launch weapons, then it would still be super easy because there's mines, super difficult because there's mines absolutely everywhere. It doesn't matter how well your infantry's trained, how well they go from double column or arrowhead into extended line and then flank light and reft, and how good they are at CQB. If there's sodding armoured cars and tanks and bombs from planes being dropped on the head and flamethrower rocket systems blowing them up, you know, because the artillery, the heavy ordnance and the landmines don't care how well trained you are. So the fact that they are doing this well and they are stacking up Russian bodies at a higher rate, a significantly higher rate than the Russians are stacking up Ukrainian bodies, is amazing. You know, but this is not, you know, like, if you see that thing in Israel where the troops got disciplined because there's like thousands of them packed close together, you know, dancing with the shirts off to some pop singer who jumped into the crowd wearing just his underwear. Do you know what would happen if we did that in Ukraine? It would have got caliber missiles, and that place would have looked like the fucking chopped liver tray at a butcher's, yeah, with bits of mixed in camouflage clothing. So there's no comparing the two contexts. You know, Israel's been getting billions of dollars of military aid for years and years and years, and they're only fighting a terrorist organisation at the moment with, you know, a couple of countries that surround them turning a blind eye to Hamas's activities along their borders, right? They're not fighting any armies with tanks or an air force of any sort whatsoever. So, quite frankly, Israel doesn't need the support, we do. So please, you know, and I'm not getting into the politics of that conflict at all. As I say, I think both sides have behaved pretty abhorrently across their history. But and I wish they'd just stop and learn to get along. But, well, that's not going to happen, is it? You know. But yeah, we need your support. We really need your support, and we're getting the results. You know, look at the daily casualty figures. We're stacking them up. We are taking ground. They're not going to win. You know. But if they do, as I said before, your sons and brothers and husbands and boyfriends, and maybe even some of the ladies, will be in the same position me and a couple of 100,000 Ukrainians in uniform are right now. So yeah, please give generously. Anyway, it's goodbye from me at Big Mac's Battle Blogs. Slava Ukraine, and as always, to our Russian and Russian supporting and Vatnik listeners, Idina Hoyza Lupa.